We're back on Expert Showcase. Today we have Caprice Hogg. This has been an epic first half of the show. We've heard all about Caprice's heroine's journey, where she came from being born with muscular dystrophy to having back surgeries to going through meeting someone who was very similar to her and just having a great well of emotions come out, and then leading into some feathers and some 2x4s into getting her to be the epic artist that she is today. If you're just joining us now, go back and watch the first half of Caprice's episode. You'll be glad you did. So Caprice, this is our expert focus segment of today's show, and this is all about sharing a passion for art and life. And for those of you who aren't artists, stick around and listen, because from reading what Caprice has and from talking to Caprice, I know this is all going to be applicable to you, or at least, if not all, at least one thing from each of these segments is going to be applicable to you. So Caprice, give us a really quick overview of what we're going to be talking about here today.
Well, I just thought I would give a quick rundown about what it's like to be a painter and do it as a career, how I managed to survive for all these years, down the line. It's been a big learning curve, and for me personally, I've done things a little bit different than a lot of my artist friends have done, and so I just thought I'd share with you a little bit about what it's like to be in my business, and a little bit, how the different route I chose to take rather than going into galleries and whatnot. And instead, I decided to open my own gallery, and I sell primarily right out of my studio and online, and the different avenues that I chose to take.
And that is so epic. And part of the reason, once again, folks, I'm going to repeat, even if you're not an artist, you want to stick around, because as you just heard, Caprice has done things her own way. And if you're a coach or consultant, a lot of times you're going to hear all of this stuff out there telling you the exact right way to do this or the exact right way to do that. We've got somebody sitting in front of you who's become an epic success, who's made her mark in this world, and who's done it her own way. And there's definitely going to be things you're going to be able to learn from in this segment. So we're going to talk all about persevering, trusting your gut, and the fact that it's not always easy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start off with persevering. When we talk about persevering, tell us a little bit about how you have persevered through your own business to this point.
Well, like I say, it's not an easy business being a painter, and I know right now it's economic hard times for a lot of people. I think it's, in both Canada and the U.S., we're all in a very bad economic situation with the economy and whatnot. And so with things like art, I think those are one of the things that can kind of be eliminated from a lot of people's spending. It's kind of, but on the other hand, it's one of those avenues where it really brings peace and comfort to a lot of people. Something like an original painting, there's nothing in the world quite like it. It's like music is like that, and it brings comfort to people. And it's one of those things that I know is an important part of my life. It's not a part of everyone's life, but once you get into the art world, there's no turning back. It's kind of, yeah, it's something that has to be there, or I'm not a fulfilled person if I don't have art in my life. And so that's kind of one of the things I like to share with people that are in my realm and that I connect with, is just the importance of art and how it can really have such a dramatic impact on your life. But as far as being in business and trying to sell art, that's a whole different ball of wax. And as I mentioned in the early part of the show, my parents had always been in business, so I learned a lot about marketing and how to do sales and all that things from the time I grew up. And then when I met my original art teacher, she said, selling art is like selling nothing else. And I'm like, oh, don't be silly. It's just selling, a product, and it's not. It's a whole different world, and I now realize that it has to be, sold in a different way. And I even, a couple of years ago, I took I studied with a business coach, and even her way of selling and, working, I had to tweak it into a different bit of a world. And I think even in the social media and business applications, it is definitely a different ball of wax altogether. So I've kind of now figured out the different little ways that work for me, at least, and it's been big learning curve. And the social media marketing is something that's totally brand new world, as you are well aware of, Chris. And but I think some parts of it are definitely the same as for any other business, and that you've definitely got to connect with your customers and your clientele and just get personal. And for me, that was a big, big, big challenge, is to put myself out there, because for a lot of years, it was my belief that you should buy a painting or buy a piece of art because you respond to the painting, that you respond emotionally to the painting, and the artist themselves should never have anything to do with it. And the woman that first taught me, Karen, she said, don't, have people buying your art because you're in a wheelchair, or buying your art because you're a woman, or any of that stuff. You want it to stand on its own. And I really, really believe that. And then a few years later, one of my other mentors had passed away, and I went to his studio shortly after he had died. And I went into his studio with all of his last paintings, and I had the box of Kleenex with me, and I knew I was gonna be all emotional and upset, and then I wasn't, because Keith was all around me. And it made me look at my own work in a totally different way, and I realized how much of me actually winds up in my paintings. So then that gave me a different perspective as to when I'm trying to sell my paintings, that I have to kind of sell myself first as well, because if people like me, then there's a chance they're going to like my paintings as well, and they will respond emotionally to the paintings if they're responding to me. So then that kind of shifted, and I had to sort of not be quite so shy, and I had to start putting my face out there and putting my personality out there, and my love and my passion for art had to suddenly be in the forefront. And I think that was a big turning point in my business career, is when I was allowed people to actually see who I am.
Epic. So folks, normally I do a whole recap and everything. Here's what I want to say. If you haven't resonated yet with the fact that Caprice's business of being an artist is the same as your business of being a coach or consultant, go back and watch the last 4.5 to 5 minutes of this video, because what Caprice has just told you is the same struggle that every coach and every consultant goes through. I want my material to stand on my own. I'm not really, they start off saying, "Oh, I want my material to stand on its own," and it shouldn't be emotional between myself and my clients. And I say, horse pucky. I mean, bull. The fact of the matter is the fact that you want the people to resonate with you. Yes, you need your content and your coaching to deliver epic value and change people's lives. But the heck with the content. People need to resonate with, people need to resonate with you, and want to be in your world. And Caprice, from an art standpoint, one real quick thing about that and resonance, is there, without getting too deep into the story, has there ever been a time where you looked at a painting and be like, I kind of don't like it, and you found out who the artist was, and it fundamentally changed the way you actually viewed that particular painting? Can you ever pick that? And if it hasn't, that's fine, but can you ever pick out a time where that's happened for you?
Uh, well, in a way, yes, because when I was in Italy a few years ago, our friend had arranged for me to go to an entire Caravaggio exhibit. And I knew Caravaggio, and I knew his work, but I never really paid much attention to him, and I didn't know we were even going to this exhibit. And then we just got out of the car, and here we were, and I didn't know that's where we were going. And I walked in, and or wheeled in, I guess, and there was this one painting on the wall of Caravaggio's, and it was a painting of the Romans taking Christ away to be crucified. And I am not a Catholic, and I'm not particularly religious, and I saw that painting, and I got so emotional, and it was totally a shock to me, because it wasn't the subject matter, and it wasn't even the artist, but it was just, the painting was just overwhelming to me, and it came as such a surprise. And I think that is one of the magic things about art, is that you never know when something like that is going to hit you, and it can happen at the most unexpected time, so and that's what I love. And the same thing happened to me, like it's happened to me multiple times when I was at the Vancouver Art Gallery. there was an Andy Warhol painting, and I didn't like Andy Warhol. I had nothing good to say about Andy Warhol. And then I saw his Marilyn Monroe, and it was overwhelmingly extraordinary. And I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. And I've never seen, something. It was just brilliant. And so then that changed me forever. And I'm still not the hugest fan of Andy Warhol paintings for all of them, but he's definitely got extraordinary pieces, and seeing them in real life rather than in a book makes a big difference too. But you never know when that's going to hit you, and that's one of the thrills of fine art for me.
Yeah, and I think what you brought up there is very, very important and very critical. The fact of the matter is that, we can change our opinions about people, even if, if we're not particular fans, if they make a change in our life. And then going forward, we can view them and their material different. So the whole point is that, yes, your content, whether you're an artist, a coach, a consultant, your content needs to be good, and it needs to change. It definitely needs to change people's lives. Fact of the matter is that they're also, if they have that connection with you, they're going to look at your content a little bit differently. Just like you said, you weren't a big fan of Andy Warhol, but now after that one piece of content changed your opinion, now at least you have a different respect and a different association for the rest of his work. So
Sure.
before we get into trusting your gut, as far as perseverance, what's one tip, trick, or hint you can give our audience when it comes to persevering through those lean times, that regardless of whether you're an artist, a coach, a consultant, a business owner, an entrepreneur, that you'll always go through?
Well, for me, it's all been about choosing exactly what it is I want. And for me, passing up my art, which there have been many, many times that I'm thinking, this is never going to come to fruition. It's like, flogging a dead horse. I read in some business magazine that it's time to shut your business down when, and I had hit all those points, and I'm like, I got to get my head examined because this is never going to come. But for me, there were so many parts. To think, the thought of not painting didn't work for me, and B, I have so many people that have bought my paintings over the years and have written me, checks with their hard-earned money, and the thought of suddenly not being in business and letting those people down was too much for me to handle. And that was a big part of it, because my clients are very important to me as well, and the people that had faith in me, and some of my teachers have all come out to my art shows, and I've had opening nights where it's just been packed, and then now the thought of not continuing on, it just wasn't an option for me. So those are the things that kind of kept me going, and my family, who have been here to support me. And there have been all those days where I haven't been making it as an artist, but because I've been with my family, I was able to stay at it. So there's definitely yeah, yeah.
Epic. There is some epic gold right there, folks. Especially you go back and you realize, I guess the biggest thing I'll bring out of all that, and if you don't have something to write down or type with, go get something, pause this, rewind a little bit, and listen to what Caprice just said. The biggest piece of epic gold I can pick out of there was the fact that when you think about not doing what you're doing, and your brain just says, "Nope, I can't see it," that's one of the ways that tells you might need to find a different way of doing it, but it tells you that you
For
need to
sure.
persevere and keep going. So let's go ahead and get into trusting your gut. So raise your hand if you could use more clients. Now keep those hands up if you know that the best, most efficient, most effective way to attract your ideal client is to create great client attracting content that connects with your ideal client and makes it easier for you to convert them into paying clients. Now, whether you have your hands up or have your hands down, I invite you to join me on the Create, Connect, and Convert online summit. It's where I and other people who are real world practitioners of creating great client attracting content are going to share our secrets with you. The summit is online. It runs Wednesday, April 13th through Saturday, April 23rd. You need to go out to the web address on your screen at this point, register to reserve your seat. And remember, you want to join us on the Create, Connect, and Convert online summit, because creating content is how you spread your message, reach more people, and make a bigger difference.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.